I did want to say a couple of things about energy management because we talked about the one side of it with helping them be more self-reliant, but the other side of it is too something that we do call energy management. A lot of times we talk about time management, but really real powerful time management is actually energy management. Because if you can learn to manage your energy and not run out of energy and not get burnt out, that's how you can be more productive. You can get more done. You can be more engaged with your kids because you've learned how to manage your energy rather than your time. And then you do have to do both. But I'm just constantly paying attention to how I'm feeling. And if I'm starting to feel tired, out of sorts, drained, I take strategic breaks. I will take a break to do things that will help me feel better. Now, sometimes those breaks are, for example, if I am with my kids doing a lot of homeschool stuff, I'll just take a break and be like, okay, I need a break for a minute, and I'll go outside or walk around, or I'll go meditate for 2 minutes in my room, or I'll go load the dishwasher. Strangely for me, loading the dishwasher is actually very meditative. I like doing it. So if you like doing something like that, go load the dishwasher. I'll just change it up. I'll be like, okay, I've been doing this. I'm changing it up, and it doesn't have to be for a long time. It can even be 10 minutes. In fact, a lot of productivity experts talk about the 90-10 rule. It's 50 minutes of focused work and then a 10-minute break, and then 50 minutes of focused work and then a 10-minute break. So same thing, if I'm working on my computer, if you just sat there, whatever the thing is that you like to do, doesn't matter, painting, drawing, computer work, if you did it straight for 4 hours, you would feel exhausted afterwards. And so you have to take these strategic breaks to reset and renew your energy by doing, for me, which works really well, is doing a different type of activity. So if I'm doing something sedentary on the computer, I get up and I move around. Maybe I'll clean the house. Like I'll strategically clean the house as a different type of activity so it becomes a break from what I've been doing so that it resets me. Same thing if I've been cleaning the house, then I'm like, okay, I got to take a break and do something else, like on the computer. There's this really great book called The Power of Full Engagement, and it talks totally about energy management. It's from the perspective of a sports psychologist. So they talk about it with athletes specifically and how athletes will specifically use these strategies they call it stress and recovery. So they'll stress themselves in exercise or running or whatever, and then they have to recover. But he talks about how in our daily lives, and I think this is absolutely true with moms, we are under high amounts of stress, even compared to athletes, not exactly in the same sort of way, but as far as the stress load, it's similar. And yet we do very little recovery. And so we have to be very strategic about adding in that recovery into our day. So you've got for breaks that are helping you to recover mentally, emotionally, physically, so that you can keep moving forward and then have the mental, emotional, physical energy to do the things that you want to do. So that's one of the strategies I definitely use all the time and recommend. When we are trying to strengthen our family and strengthen our marriage and build our family culture and build our family legacy, it does require a certain amount of prioritized focus. So sometimes, and this is just to consider, we may have to look and say, are we taking on or participating too much in the problems of others when we haven't yet handled our own problems, if that makes sense? There's a book called The Compound Effect. He talks about that when we are prioritizing our life and we're looking to make it more extraordinary, we have to, just like we talked about with the habits, there's a foundational piece. Now, first of all, the foundational piece is us. And we sometimes think that that's selfish, like we need to focus more on ourselves. That sounds very selfish. But in order to be the most capable person you can be to make a difference in the world, you have to strengthen yourself. So it does seem counterintuitive that if you want to be more useful and more productive and more helpful to society, you have to start by turning inward. So then after you turn inward and focus on yourself, building you, then you can move to the next levels. And that's generally going to be your long-term intimate relationship or marriage, and then your parenting. Now, Greg and I are like hyper, super good at that, but it also gives us a strength that helps us to be more helpful. But one of the reasons we've been able to do that is because, for good or bad, we've been very strategic about limiting our community size. Now, we might think, wait, that's a bad thing, isn't it? You can really only have 15 friends and then 30 to 45 acquaintances, but super close friends, you could only have 5. Like, this is the statistics on how much your body and brain can actually handle being in intimate relationships with other people. In this book, he talks about how as we're going through our life, we have to look at the people in our life and we actually have to judge them and see what type of friend they are. And he said there are people that are 3 minutes friends, which you can have 3-minute conversation with them. And then after that, it's actually dragging you both down, or at least dragging you down. Then there's people that are 3-hour friends. And then there's people that are 3-day friends. And there's people that are 3-week friends. And there are people that are 3 months friends. And then there's people that like 3-year friends. Coming back to this, when I think about, okay, if there are big interruptions happening at least 2 times a week or more, I would be saying, what kind of friends, and I have to add family into this, because sometimes we have to be honest. Sometimes we have family members that are 3-minute family members, and sometimes we have family members that are 3-day family members. But we have to be able to lovingly recognize those things and lovingly make choices that bring the focus back to our true power of control. I guarantee that all of these interruptions that are happening are not necessarily things that are 100% or even maybe 75% within your control, right? Ultimately, that's going to be you and your marriage and your kids. And then after that, it branches out. So if there's not things that are immediately within my area of control, I have to start, even as much as I might have empathy for them, I might care. It's not like I'm heartless, like, oh, I don't care about you. But I have to say, this isn't actually in my circle of influence. This isn't actually in my circle of control, right? I can send prayers, I can send love, I could send gifts, but to be involved in a big way, I don't have the bandwidth for that. If I do, I'm neglecting my husband, I'm neglecting my children, and I'm neglecting myself, which is ultimately going to lead to the downfall of my marriage, my parenting and family, and myself. So, I mean, I hope this makes sense and comes across in a way that doesn't seem heartless or uncaring. But that's one of the first things that I would look at if I realized big things are happening all the time. Because, and if it's in my own family, like if something big's happening every week, I'm going to be like, guys, what is going on with you? Why do you keep breaking legs or whatever? Like, what's happening? And then we could address that. But if it's a sphere outside of that, extended family, friends, as much as I love and care, I have to draw boundaries. Because for me, my most important role and job is as myself and a wife and a mother for my own family. Hands down, that's always going to take priority for me.